Good to have you back on Global Business Report. Africa is about to witness the emergence of Ariseplay, Africa's premier global streaming services, telling African stories, celebrating Africans and people of African descent from all over the world. According to its Chief Executive Officer, Khumalo, a full service will be rolled out in March 2020. Ariseplay, a sibling of Arise News TV, will be launched on January 20th. This day will be celebrating its 25th year of uncommon contributions to the evolution of modern journalism in Nigeria. Ariseplay Managing Director Collins Khumalo now joins me in the studio for more on this. Collins, good to have you. Good evening.
Good evening, Nee. Thank you for having me here.
Good. So tell us what Ariseplay is all about and what makes this unique and the many other streaming platforms in the global markets.
I think from our perspective, we looked at the landscape.
Okay.
And we look at the opportunities and we say what opportunities are out there for us to be able to come in. I think a lot of technological changes are taking place. Technological changes relating to the imminent launch of 5G, as well as other technologies like AI that we believe will make a streaming platform much more viable going into the future. So we believe from an Ariseplay perspective that the launch is long overdue, particularly a platform that is focused on newstainment rather than on traditional video on demand. Okay. And secondly, a platform that is focusing significantly on Africans as well as Africans from the diaspora, that we believe that once we create that kind of content and that kind of platform, it will attract them to be able to come through and be part of our platform.
Interesting. Now, what is the strategy to win in a tough market with infrastructure challenges? That is, we can talk about bandwidth issues and others, etc.
Well, the brief that I got from Arise Global Media was that we are a long-term player. Okay. We're not a short-term player. We understand that there's significant investment that has to be made, and we're prepared to make those investments. However, we're also looking at the technological changes that are happening out there. We feel that the current challenges that are out there with regards to bandwidth, the cost of broadband for the normal user, will be a thing of the past once 5G launches, where then 5G will become almost like a thing that everyone can have, which then leaves the opportunity for people to come up with content that enables people to use that platform and that technology to be able to consume content.
So predominantly we'll be keying into the 5G network. That's your assessment of that?
That's one of the key developments. We're watching those developments quite closely. We participated in the launch of 5G and the trial by MTN Nigeria. And we believe that one of those technologies is definitely going to make it easier and accessible for people to access our content.
Very good, Collins. Now, so what is the timeline? When will all this be rolled out?
We're planning to go live in March. Our first launch is going to be in Nigeria. And then subsequently, we will then launch in Southern as well as East Africa. Okay. And then thereafter, we'll be launching globally in other markets. That will obviously be driven by quite a number of factors. One is availability of content that we'll be able to put onto the platform. Secondly, it will be driven by our investment and the coming into stream of our own productions that we will co-produce with producers globally. Yes.
And of course, the lingering issue now, how about pricing? And will there be free viewing for part of the play, or will it all be based on subscription? And can you give us an idea of how much it'll cost?
Look, I think what we've done is we've looked at the market and we said, what's happening out there? What are the key developments? I think there will be aspects or sections of our platform that will be available on a free-to-air basis. That means someone goes in and actually just signs up and he has access to the content. And then there's premium content that we will be sourcing from suppliers globally, where people will then be able to or be expected to pay a subscription. And that, at this point in time, will be pegged at $2.99, which will be a global price. Obviously, then the pricing will be priced in the local currencies like the Naira or the Rand or the Kenyan shilling.
So there's flexibility in terms of payment plans as well?
Well, I think the initial proposition is that people would have to come in and pay a full subscription on a monthly basis. However, there's other models that we're planning to launch and introduce, like, for example, if a consumer is interested or is not in a position to pay a subscription, but would want to get some advertising embedded onto the content that we're serving to him, then the customer would then be able to have access to that as well. Yeah.
Very good. So who are the main investors here, and where is the seed funding coming from, and will there be an opportunity for an IPO, perhaps in the future?
As I said, this is a long-term play.
Yeah.
I think the seed funding has been provided by Arise Global Media, who has indicated that they will be willing to support the platform at least for these formative years. The level of investment and the level of take-up of the service on a global basis will significantly determine how much funding and how quickly will be required. And if there's a quick take-up, and more markets come on stream onto the platform, then we would be able to go out there and potentially look at how we can tap the financial markets for access to funding that will then drive the platform into the future. Yes.
Indeed. Now, as you know, many African startups end up being disappointing. So how will Ariseplay be different?
As I said, I think the first part is the differentiator is that we are a newstainment platform and not a pure video on demand platform. And being a newstainment platform means that everything is driven by our roots, the roots of Arise TV, as well as This Day, which is based on making sure that there's editorial content that is driving the scheduling of the platform. But secondly, we're looking at theming the platform in such a way that there is an ongoing, fresh look at how even long-term content is being portrayed onto the platform. So there's going to be a lot of investment in editorial content to make sure that we are as relevant as possible, tapping into daily occurrences and things that are topical that will then drive what then we serve on the platform. Yes.
Of course, stimulate public demand as well.
Yes.
Very good. Now, still on the issue of the content, in terms of competitiveness, and how would you envisage patronage from prospective streaming public? You've already mentioned the fact that one or two things that you have to do to stimulate, their, interest in them. So, what do you make of that development?
Look, I think over the last 18 months, there's been a lot of movement that has happened with a lot of Disney Play and other streaming platform launching. We believe that we will be able to create a niche that we can be able to initially coexist with all of the other platforms, purely from the perspective as to how we serve that content to our subscribers. And thereafter, we'll then be able to look at what significant other investments we need to make to drive this platform to become the platform of choice for our subscribers out there.
Indeed, Collins. Now, a closer look at Ariseplay. There is emphasis on African stories, as we said, celebrating Africans globally as well. So what is the motivation for the Afrocentric perspective here?
Look, I don't think there is a platform at a global level that tells African stories, that is dedicated at celebrating Africans, and that is dedicated and focused in making sure that Black and African content producers from all over the world, and I'm talking from Africa, Europe, South America, and everywhere else where there's an opportunity for them to bring their content onto the platform, and we will then use those stories to be able to create that unique value proposition for ourselves.
And this is a new development. It's a new initiative, no doubt. So how do you hope to maintain consistency against the background of those other platforms you've already mentioned about?
Yes. Look, I think the consistency will be driven to a large extent by our active involvement in, one, sourcing the content, but also participating in the production of that content to make sure that the quality of that content is uniform across the board, whether that production comes from Kenya or South Africa or from Nigeria or even from Jamaica, for example, it will be the same level of quality, and therefore the team of people that we will be deploying out there to make sure that that quality is consistent will drive, I think, part of that consistency that we hope to drive in the platform.
Indeed, and we'll see how it goes, and we wish you the best of luck. Collins Khumalo, CEO, Ariseplay, it's good to have you with us.
No, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.